throughout my lifetime as a species, each human being's rate of paving things over, digging things up, tearing things up, and killing other stuff to make room for us, that impact has grown per individual at the same time that we've doubled our population. My lifetime. I'm a young guy. Somebody always laughs when I say that. In my lifetime, that's happened. So population has to be, I think, in this conversation. Now, we also have mechanical, technological ways of dealing with human population. It's not that complicated. And economically, we know when a country's standard of living rises to something like about half of our own, that the rate of reproduction drops almost immediately. And it drops to a flat line almost immediately. We don't know exactly why that is. That's been insufficiently studied. But I will say, if I lived in a country where I didn't have reasonable expectations that my children would survive to adulthood, and in which there was no social safety net for me in my old age, not to mention the fact that I might need those kids for labor, I'd have as many kids as I could. You know, rapid population growth in developing parts of the world is not the product of ignorance. The people who are having a lot of children under those circumstances are doing the smart thing under their circumstances. And so the solution sociologically is clearly to change those circumstances. And I think that kind of fairness rests at the center of every conversation about sustainability. So, first two big obstacles, conservation, we have pretty good tools for addressing that. Second big obstacle, human population growth. By the way, a lot of people believe that in the United States we're relatively stable, slow-growing population. Well, we are compared to some places. That means that we're only building a new Minneapolis-St. Paul metropolitan area each year. The rate of population growth in the United States is a new Minneapolis-St. Paul each year. You know, I stood on the edge of actually here in the Ozarks when I was 13 or 14 years old at my uncle's place in eastern Oklahoma, and saw a place that they were building a new housing development. And it struck me very strongly at that time, when we move in, how much we displace in terms of God's diverse, abundant nature, just by being there. And so you imagine building, paving, constructing a new Minneapolis-St. Paul every year. You get a sense of what's going on at the ground level. The third obstacle that I will frankly acknowledge is, for my money, the toughest, and that's economic. Since the dawn of the Industrial Revolution, since the invention of modern economics, we've had rapidly growing populations. That means that since the invention of modern economics, since the very invention of economic theory, we've had a lot more customers every year. Which tells me, and tells most smart economics who will admit it, that economic growth has been almost inevitable. The economic growth is almost automatic. There are more consumers every year. How could you not have economic growth? You measure economic growth in terms of gross product and having customers to consume that product, and we've been making more and more of them every year. A couple of years ago, worldwide productivity dropped by about half a point because of an economic downturn.